Bonjour blokes, Lakey Bloke here. Look what I've got. I've got a vial of White Labs English cider yeast, WLP 775. We're going to be growing this up today, folks. We've also got a magnetic stir bar. Can you see that? That's essentially a magnet. And what will happen is in this big jar, this will sit in the bottom of the jar, spin round on the stir plate, and give our yeasties lots and lots and lots of air to grow up on and eat and thrive on and things. Now this has been sitting at room temperature for about 3 to 4 hours. We've also got a apple juice, a litre of apple juice. We're going to need more than a litre though, we're going to need 1.5 litres. So I'm going to get another little carton in a second. And essentially what's going to happen is that this is going to be sanitised, and the way we do that is to boil it in a pan. But as you can see, this is a 3 litre kilner jar. It's a bit of a bugger to boil this in a pan, folks, to make sure it's sanitised. So there are a number of things we can do with it. We can just sanitise it with some Star San or sanitizer of your choice, or we can put boiling hot water in there and then sanitize it just to make sure that it's as clean as it can be. I've done this before without boiling this in a pot and it's worked absolutely fine. However, you don't need to listen to me. If it all goes wrong, it's because you've not sanitized properly. So I recommend, if you can, that you sanitize all your pots by boiling them. Now we're not going to boil this one because it's too big. But when it comes down to creating small starters, we will be boiling those up because they're small and they can fit in the pan. And also those ones we're going to keep for a prolonged period of time. So you want to make sure that they're nice and clean when they're kept in the fridge. They're sanitized, they're clean, and the yeasties will thrive. Trust me, I've done this, folks. It works. I've got a cider on the go in the fridge in the Conservatory of Doom. That is thriving away. That has got a mixture of Y yeast and Old Rosie, so that should be an interesting blend of yeasts there. Going to give it a lovely sort of flavour. That's the theory anyway. So first step is to clean this, get it nice and clean. Second step is to put 1.5 litres of this in there. This also had to be at room temperature, folks. You could argue that you might want to boil this on a pan for a bit. We don't really need to do that as long as it's at room temperature. Yeah, this is already sanitised. After all, you know, we make brews out of these things and we don't boil every single litre of juice, do we? We don't need to go overboard, folks, trust me. You'll see lots and lots of videos out there, lots and lots of people boiling everything, but we don't need to at this early stage. We don't need to worry about that just yet. Just want to make sure that it's as clean as it can be. Use boiling water, put some sanitizer in there, get it as clean as a motherfucker. Of course, if you've got a 2 litre jar, it's probably easier to put into a pan, isn't it? However, I advise caution, because we're using 1.5 litres. If you've got a 2 litre jar, what you'll find is this Y yeast froths up like a mother, okay? And it will come outside the top, which is why I've got this big 3 litre one, just to make sure there's enough headspace at the top for the foam that this is going to produce. It will produce an obscene amount of foam. I've done it, I've been there, trust me, I'm a doctor. You'll come back to me and you'll go, you're right, Roy, it did produce an inordinate amount of foam. So this is what we're going to grow up, folks. This is the best yeast for cider I've ever used. Honestly, I'm not joking. You don't have to take my word for it. Go out there, try it yourself. It's about £6 this, if you're lucky. Anywhere between £6 and £7. Plus, of course, you need to do it online. So you have to pay for delivery as well on top of that, which is anywhere between £5 and £7, isn't it, usually? But if you stick it on your shopping list when you're ordering other stuff online, then, you know, obviously the cost will come down a bit. But you're going to use it more than once. We're going to get more than one use out of this. We're going to be growing it up. We're going to be getting at least, I don't know, 15, 20 iterations out of this. possibly more, depends how we go. So it is worthwhile investing in a single vial, honestly. Trust me, I'm a doctor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go away, sanitize this, yeah, make sure it's all nice and clean, and then we're going to put some apple juice in there. We're going to chuck that in and we're going to stick it on a stir plate. See you in a bit. Hello. I'm here, folks. Forgive the big fat gut on the side, right? I'm just showing you this stir plate. Well, this is more of a stir chopping board, because that's exactly what it is. This is a normal bog standard chopping board with apples on. But on the other side, folks, look what we've got here. We've got a computer fan, we've got some power and switch there. Can you see that? We used that to turn it on. On the other side of this fan, we've got a couple of magnets there. So what will happen is that when this spins around and we've got some power to it, the magnets will provide the exact amount of magneticity. Yeah, that's a new word, folks, magneticity. Because what we'll do is we'll stick the kilner jar with the little stir bar in it on the top there, and it will go, and I'll show you that very soon. I'll give you an example. Now, as you can see, folks, inside here, inside this kilner jar here, we've got a stir plate. That, if I move this around, as you can see, it's stuck to the magnet, which is great. That's what we want. We want to get it in the middle as much as we can, so that when we turn this on, very slightly here, we'll start to spin around. Now, it's making a bit of a noise, this one, because this particular magnetic stir bar has got a raised part on it, which makes a hell of a sound. Now, obviously, I wouldn't leave this running all the time, this one, because it's too bloody noisy. So if you can get a magnetic stir bar, make sure you get one that hasn't got any raised bits in, and it's just flat all the way through. Let me just delve in here, pick it out, and I'll show you what I mean. Can you see that sort of raised bit in the centre there? You want one without that, really, because if you haven't got a completely flat bottom on your jar, misses, it's just going to make a noise when it spins round. Now, the other one I've got hasn't got that sort of raised dent in it, so we don't get the same noise. You get a slight sound, but it's not too bad. Right, guys, as you can see, we've got 500 millilitres of apple juice in there. There's the stir bar right at the bottom there, and just to prove it works, we'll stick it on. There it goes. It's going to make a little bit of a noise, but it's not as bad as the other stir bar. Do you see what I mean about the noise now? So we'll switch that off for now. This is going to be shaken up, thrown in there, and then we're going to put a litre of apple juice over the top of it. So there we are, folks. Look, as you can see, this particular yeast is rather fluffy and messy. What I recommend is, when you undo the vial, and I'll just show you this here, look, the vial at the top, make sure that that's sanitised, because when you give it a little bit of a shake, the pressure's going to build up inside, and when you open that slowly, it's going to come bursting out. So make sure when you do open it, it's over the top, so that you don't lose any yeast. But you know, you need to give it a good rinse out as well. You can see there's just a little bit of yeasty in there, and I'll make sure I get that out in a second. But over the top of the yeast now, we pour in another litre of apple juice. It's all very exciting stuff. Now, obviously, the problem with this is if you haven't got a stir plate, this is going to be very difficult for you to do, because unlike, you know, a small starter where you can just walk past it and give it a shake, you might have problems doing that with this. It's still doable. You can still, you know, walk past it and pick it up and, you know, sort of shake it about a little bit, but it might be a little bit more difficult. It's doable though. Trust me, I'm a doctor. This, folks, is sanitised tin foil. That needs to go over the top. Whee! There. You don't need to stick an elastic band around it, just make sure it's, you know, it's over the top and nothing can get in and nothing can get out. And then we turn our stir on very slowly. As you can see at the bottom there, it's frothing up like a motherfucker. The little yeasties are dancing around. Now we don't want to go too mad initially, so we just want to sort of create enough where it's going around a little bit. Do you see what I mean there? We could probably do a little bit more of that. We could go a little bit faster, that's it. And then what we do, folks, is we leave this for 24 to 36 hours, so that in that period of time the amount of yeast in here is going to go crazy ape bonkers. Now I'll come back in maybe 24 hours or so 24 hours or so, and I'll show you how much froth there is at the top there, and we'll see how it's getting on. Hey guys, here we are 24 hours later. Now I've stopped the stir plate just to show you how much yeast there is at the bottom here. As you can see, there's a good probably 2 to 3 inches worth of yeast there. That's a shed load, but I'm not satisfied with that fact, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it on again and allow the yeasties to spin around again. There you go, can you see him whiz up? Way dancing yeasties. I'm going to let this go probably until about later on tonight. Well, that's really good, isn't it? Rather impressed with that. And then what we'll do is I might even leave it till tomorrow morning, actually give it a good 48 hours worth of fermentation. Over the side here we've got all of our 250 milliliter kilner jars. Now what we're going to do is we're going to sanitize all of these. Oh, that nearly torn it, didn't it? We're going to sanitize all of these. This one is going to be used to make another batch of yeast all over again, but all these other ones will just be used as sort of mini starters for normal cider batches. So once I'll make my way through these, I'll grab this out of the fridge, and then we'll go through this process, putting it on the stir plate and building it up all over again. It's all good fun, isn't it? Hello folks, here we are. It's nearly 48 hours after we kicked off the yeast starter, the massive yeast starter. Here we are, boiling some water. This isn't from a kettle really, because I tend to find if you boil water from the kettle you get lime scale and a load of other shit in there. This is from the tap, so it's nice and clean. Over here, this is sanitised. Bit of foil, because what's going to happen is once we've got our jars out of here, we need to put them on there, put the lids on, and here are our jars and the lids and some tongs. Now all of these things here, including the tongs, will be going in there once it starts bubbling up. We'll leave it in there for about 10 to 15 minutes, and then we'll take them out with the tongs. We'll put them on here, put the lids on very loosely, the lids on the top, and we'll let them stand and cool down a bit before we put our yeast into the kilner jars. And while we're waiting for the water to boil, here is our big yeast starter. The amount of yeast in there is just silly. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn the turn that thing off. It does make a noise, I'm afraid, when you turn it off. Just one of those things. And we'll watch the yeast settle to the bottom. Here it goes. Maximus Largus Yeastus Bollicus. There's going to be a lot of yeast here. And a good thing about the White Labs yeast is it's already frothy and fluffy. I mean, look at that. Look at that. That's beautiful. There's so much yeast in there now. Now, of course, when we do our pouring into our little kilner jars, we need to make sure that we get as much of that yeast in suspension when we're pouring. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a spoon into the pan alongside the tongs, so that you know, that spoon will be sanitized as well, so that in between pouring between the little kilner jars, I'll give it a little stir to put the yeast back into suspension again. so that we don't end up with the yeast all in one kilner jar essentially. Hopefully that makes sense, folks. So here we are then, chaps. There's our sanitised jars. They've been boiled along with the spoon. That's sanitised too. All I need to do now is use the spoon to stir up that as we pour equally into all of these jars. We need to make sure we keep the yeast, which is down at the bottom there, it's settled quite a bit now, in suspension as we pour, so we need to give it a stir as we go. Here we are then, folks. There's all of our vials. This one is obviously going to be used to repeat the process again. As you can see, all these other jars have more or less an equal amount of yeast in. That one's got slightly more than the others, but it doesn't matter. Those ones we will use to chuck in batches. We do mini starters with those, and this one here we'll use to do the process all over again. So there you go. These need to go in the fridge now, so that's what I'm going to do, and you can use them again and again and again, but obviously you can only get so many iterations out of these, but keep it going, folks, keep it going. Grow your yeasts up, split them into separate batches, get as much out of them as you can, get your money's worth. Yeah, there you go. Enjoy. Hello. Here we are with a vial of the cultivated WLP 775 yeast. Now, oh pardon me, this has been in the fridge for a few days now. It's not completely clear yet, but as you can see, down the bottom there's a layer of yeast. Now, it doesn't look like there's an awful lot of yeast in there to you or me, does it? But trust me, there's enough in there to do a big batch of cider. Trust me, I'm a doctor. I've done it. I have the proof. I've drunk cider, and I've been drunk as a result of drinking the cider. So you can grow up your own yeast, folks. There is enough yeast there, honestly, to do your own batch of cider. What I tend to do is I'll get this out of the fridge on the day I'm going to do my batch, and I'll leave it at room temperature for 3 to 4 hours, something like that. And I'll pour off probably, I don't know, say 3/4 of that down to about there, just so there's enough apple juice at the bottom there to swirl it around so I can get those yeasties out. Because, you know, if this has been in the fridge for a while, the yeast is going to stick to the bottom of this kilner jar, and you want to make sure that you get enough of that yeast in suspension as you can. And of course, what you can do afterwards is, if you haven't got all the yeast out, you can just pour in some more apple juice in there, give it a shake, and then pour it out. Up to you, folks. You can pour this in with all of the apple juice in it, or you can, you know, strain it and then use, say, just about that much of apple juice at the bottom. I tend to strain it before I do my brews, just down to there, because we don't really need all of that. We want to put as much fresh juice in as we can, really, and just chuck the yeast in and let the yeast do its work. So there you go. I hope you found it useful, folks. Stick with me, subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. Don't forget to visit the Facebook Turbo Cider user group type thing on Facebook. Again, link below or on my home channel. Check that out if you're not already on there. Come and join us. We talk about all things turbo cider, yeast, and there's, you know, some home brews in there that are not turbo ciders. You know, we like to sort of welcome everyone in, really, but primarily it's really for people that are making turbo ciders, lagers and things, you know, sort of normal bog standard homebrew stuff without anything too complicated. This is going to go into a cider at some point in the near future. Unfortunately, I'm not sure if you can see it over there, but there is a fermenting vessel on the side there. Yeah, you can see it, can't you? That's got cider in it. So I've already got a couple of ciders on the go at the moment, so this probably won't be used for a while. But it does need to be used within 4 months, folks, because yeast tends to deteriorate around the rate of about 20% per month from my research and from people I've been chatting to about it on the internet. Yeah, so you need to use it within 4 months, otherwise it will go off. So you don't want it to go off, really. Use it. If you're not gonna do a lot of ciders, then don't do it. You know, don't cultivate it. But I probably will use these up in the course of the next 4 months, because I do like cider and I do drink a lot of it. So, and I'm going to have a barbecue over the summer, so everyone will be drinking it. I might do a sort of strawberry cider and stuff like that. So, watch it, enjoy it, give it a go, folks. It's all about experimentation, isn't it? I've always said this in all my homebrew videos. It's all about experimentation. You've got to give it a go, because honestly, you know, you will benefit out of it in the long run, and you'll save so much money by doing this, honestly, because especially if you're using the liquid yeasts, the liquid yeasts are about 6 or 7 quid a pot. So pop, not pot. 6 or 7 quid a pop. So yeah, you don't want to waste your money on it. Just cultivate it. Cultivate it. Don't buy any more. So I'll see you in the next Homebrew Wednesday video, blokes. Or if not, I might do a few cider reviews between now and next week. So stay tuned. I'll see you on the cast. I'm not sure what day it's going to be this week. So if you go to vaughanlive.tv/LakeyBloke and subscribe down the bottom there, you'll get an email when I'm casting. I had some technical issues on Saturday when I did the cast, and I do apologise for that. But as it turns out, there were some problems on the Vaughan Live network, so it might not have necessarily been my doing. I know some people jumped in and jumped out and moaned because I was having problems, but you know, when things start going wrong, there's not very much you can do about it really, other than try and fix it and stick with it and go with the flow. So do join us on the casts, join us on the Facebook user group, and subscribe to the channels and give us a thumbs up if you like this video. So that's all for now, folks. I'll see you on the next one. Cheerio.